I'm talking about some class in these videos for once. Have you heard of this new video game called God of War Ragnarok? Because I certainly have. And I'm going to be reviewing that today. I feel really dumb saying this because why would you have clicked on this video if you didn't know? But for those of you who don't know, God of War Ragnarok is a new video game exclusively made for the PS5/PS4. Now, if you're already familiar with my channel, you'll probably be thinking, hang on, wait, you're a film reviewer, aren't you? Why the hell? Why in the seven hells are you reviewing a video game? Are you not a little bit out of your depth here, my friend? That's what you might be saying. No, the truth of the matter is, I just really wanted to talk about this because it was a big part of my storytelling consumption of the year 2022. Playing this game, which was heavily cinematic and story driven, made for one of the most immersive storytelling experiences I had in 2022. And I think it'll be the same case for everyone who played it because it's essentially a 60-hour movie where you are controlling the main character, or two of the main characters. I do play a lot of video games and they are very fascinating as a medium because they're almost like the next step above movies because you are the protagonist, you're controlling the main character. You have that extra level of investment, you are literally that person. You are seeing the story as well as living the story. So in a lot of ways, video games are the next step in storytelling, like after film, say. Not necessarily better, but it does fascinate me a lot. For instance, in 2018, the most emotionally resonant piece of media that I witnessed that year, or experienced, was Red Dead Redemption 2. Nothing else came close in terms of how immersed and on board with those characters I was. It's just so much more thorough. And also with video games, because you are playing them for an extended period of time, like any other piece of media, there'll be cracks and there'll be flaws. But because you're there for so long and you've paid 60 quid for the game, you're almost forced to just okay, the cracks are going to be there, let's just enjoy this as much as I can. Because with some movies, it's okay, this is shit, this is boring, I'm just going to have to wait this out. Because it's only 2 hours. But with video games, you're okay, I'm going to be here for the next couple of days, possibly weeks. I need to be happy with what I'm doing here. I need to get on board with what the creators were going for with this. And because again, you are playing as the main character, you're in control, you're just okay, well, I'm coming along for the ride now, I guess. With Red Dead 2, it works absolutely masterfully. Because on one end, you are witnessing the story about this gang, but then in the other sense, you yourself are a part of that gang. It's just awesome.
Okay, get your heads right. Nobody makes a move until I say so.
Anyway, in conclusion, video games are fucking awesome, and they are a true, amazing, artful medium for storytelling, and are completely valid. Just for any of you who didn't think that they were, go fuck yourself.
Take one more step, you're not gonna like how this ends.
So yeah, when it comes to consuming art and experiencing all of these storytelling works, God of War Ragnarok was a big part of this year for me. It was a big part of my 2022 storytelling consumption. So yeah, I'm gonna fucking talk about it, alright? What else? What do you want me to talk about instead? I don't know, your Christmas or mine? I don't know, that thing with the goth girl on Netflix that is exploding all over my TikTok. No, as per usual with my reviews, this isn't going to have any structure to it, but there is going to be 3 vague subheadings of topics or whatever, and the first one is going to be combat. So as mentioned before, God of War Ragnarok is a story-driven game, but it is also in part a RPG. Sort of plays and dabbles with both. Other than cutscenes, the game is comprised of many different things, and combat is a major part of that. No. Now, I spent easily over 60 hours playing this. For the most part, I enjoyed the combat. It's definitely not perfect, however, so I'll initially go over some flaws now. It's definitely arduous, but that might be by design. I feel like the developers want you to finish each combat set piece going, fucking hell, I can't believe I actually did that. Feeling like you've just taken on an army of demons and you're absolutely knackered, fuck me. This is definitely giving the developers the benefit of the doubt, but I also think a large part of the combat experience experience of this game is designed to be arduous, because some of the combat just goes on and on and on and feels very repetitive. And that can be used as a criticism against this game, but also there is this aspect of the game wants you to feel like you are going through so much shit, that you're wading upon hordes of demons and ghouls and beasts, and by the time when you get a moment to rest when the combat finishes, you're supposed to feel like that went on for hours. You're supposed to breathe this huge sigh of relief and be like, I think that's definitely a valid way to interpret the combat in this game feeling very repetitive, but I also do think that it's a fair criticism to say that the experience can be very tedious as well. The game spams a lot of the same enemies when you're walking to and from different locations, just to add a bit more combat here and there, add a bit more of a challenge. Oh, we'll just put a few draugs here or whatever. It feels very haphazard sometimes, like artificially creating conflict, and because you're at it for so long, maybe the game could have had a little bit more faith in the player to not be like, oh, I'm gonna get bored unless I have like this amazing epic fight every 5 minutes. Because there are times when you're just strolling about the world and you encounter yet another batch of enemies and you're like, oh really, again? This just doesn't really feel like the right time. And there is also the aspect of the enemies having a lot of health, and most enemies take a long time to kill. Now again, this fits in line with the whole, oh, by the time you've defeated it, you really feel like this sense of achievement because it took ages. But in many other ways, it feels like a lot of the enemies are just damage sponges. They're just like, okay, how many fucking times am I gonna have to dodge and then hit it with the axe, then hit it with a spear or whatever? Like, a large part of the challenge of the combat in this game is just keeping it going. It's like an endurance test, just keep doing this for like 30 minutes and then the enemy will finally die. I still enjoyed most of it and I still got a great sense of achievement out of killing all of these fucking douchebags, but still the term longevity comes to mind. Now, I'm kind of a completionist, so when they say, oh yeah, there's a side quest over here, maybe we could do that, or we could continue with the main mission, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to do the fucking side quest. Now, I understand that that is my choice, so maybe I'm partially to blame for why I felt this way, but there was a very specific point in my playthrough where I got to the Vanaheim crater, and I was just like, oh, for fuck's sake. I'd just been fed that same gameplay loop over and over again of completing quests and battling the same monsters, and battling admittedly what are fun bosses every now and then, but that was definitely a point where I felt the most fatigued with this game. Maybe that fatigue was my own doing, maybe that fatigue says something about this game, but I can't deny that that happened. A lot of the comments I make in this video about the game are going to be a bit like two-sided. Like, I both love and hate this aspect of the game. Like, I both love and hate the combat, because I really like how arduous it is, but also it's really repetitive, etc. Maybe a lot of my comments in this video are going to be like that. Bear with me. So there are a lot of peaks and troughs with my enjoyment of this game, lots of ups and downs. However, I did end up getting every achievement on the PS4 version and platinuming it. By the time I got to what is essentially the New Game Plus section of the game, the Beyond Ragnarok section, I was enjoying it once again. I was fully invested in the gameplay loop. It's like a delicious fat piece of food, like a lovely steak that you enjoy, but at times you're like, fucking hell, this is really doing me in. When you're eating and you're full, but you can still recognise that the food tastes really good. And finally, the bosses were a good strong point of this game. The bosses may have been the strongest aspect of the combat. I have no issue with any of the bosses that occur along the story of the game. However, there are one or two berserkers which are utterly bullshit. One in particular where you have to take on 3 enemies at once, and it's essentially dodge the game. It's just me watching Kratos roll over for 50 minutes. Like, there was a couple ratty bosses in there. There are also times when the game didn't acknowledge my dodge, because I did dodge, but it said I didn't, so whatever, I took damage, but whatever. I definitely fucking dodged. Most of the optional bosses were kind of repetitive, but with huge health bars, so it would take an extra amount of time. Like, okay, here's what you have to do, here's the strategy. It's not so much the skill, it's more just waiting it out. Really, that probably shouldn't be the case. All the kids at school doing their exams will like this one, but it's like how exams aren't about the knowledge or whatever. The maths exam isn't about knowledge of maths, it's about remembering. It's a memory game. To be fair, honestly, I played video games whilst I was at school, but now I can't imagine just doing both. Like, holy shit. Like, I can imagine like a 15-year-old kid having a bunch of homework and not doing any of that, but fucking grinding his arse out on God of War Ragnarok. And it won't get appreciated. Like, the teacher's not gonna like think, oh, that's really good. Oh, at least your talents were better suited elsewhere. No, it's not gonna happen. Because a lot of work has to go in to completing God of War Ragnarok. And I'm just going to say it. A lot of time, effort, and precision. Now it's time to talk about the second thing, which is the story. The God of War story.
I was wrong. Open your heart. Open your heart to their suffering. That is your mother's wish. And mine as well.
Towards the beginning of my playthrough, I had concerns that this game might rehash similar beats from the 2018 God of War game, with the father-son dynamic and how he disapproves and he wants to earn his trust and his approval. From my memory of playing that 2018 game, that was a fairly complete one-and-done story for me. It was nicely resolved. So playing the start of this game, I was like, okay, amazing cutscenes, amazing graphics, amazing voice acting, but is this story really worthy of a sequel? Now the answer in the long run is a resounding yes, don't worry. But to begin with, I was like, okay, we have done the father-son thing. What else is on the table? And there were a few things about the dialogue in the early stages of the game which made me feel like it might have gone that way. Like it might have just been a pointless sequel where it rehashes similar beats from the first. Like, oh, my dad won't trust me. When is he going to learn to trust me? In the end, I do think we did get those similar story motifs, but just explored in a much broader way in this new game. It revisited a lot of Kratos's and Atreus' character traits from the first, but in more in-depth ways this time around. It just did its job to flesh them all out.
You must choose who you are going to be. Are you going to continue to lie and keep things from me? Or are you my son?
And also the fact that Atreus is now a teenager is a very different dynamic from him being like a young boy in the 2018 game. Another little thing that I had to quickly learn to get past was just the really American Norse gods. Fucking Odin walks in and he's talking like he's in an SNL sketch.
Now, what you did to his boys. Self-defense. Dying is what we Aesir live for. And let's be honest, they were kinda useless.
Overall, this isn't really a complaint, but that was just an initial, okay, this is a bit weird. However, Thor's voice actor was absolutely marvellous.
You seem like a calm and reasonable person. Are you? A calm and reasonable person.
I was paying attention to every word out of that character's mouth.
You fucking hope!
It's also quite a nice little detail that this entire story plays as one extended continuous shot. Because everything is computer generated, it has the freedom to do that. For the most part, it's a 60+ hour unbroken shot. And they make good use of the in-game camera work with the framing of different characters during cutscenes. The camera's always switching between characters, like adding emphasis to whoever's talking. If the cutscene's predominantly about this character, it'll focus on them. It's just really cool, basic filmmaking shit, but still. And that is also a really cool way of switching between characters, because at multiple points during this game you switch from controlling Kratos to controlling Atreus. And I love how the cutscenes seamlessly blend back into gameplay.
Father! Off your back. Help Freya. That was rather to me.
This game's story also has a much larger scope than the first one, which is another reason why it's a good sequel. It's again Norse mythology, which is set within the 9 realms, Midgard being Earth, but there are 8 other realms. And in this game you visit each and every one of those 9 realms. And each one has a good amount of fleshing out. Some are more complex and larger than others. That's because some are more vital to the story than others. One of the first new realms that you visit that you couldn't in the 2018 one was the dwarf realm Svartalfheim. I don't know, I can't really pronounce that. It's very difficult to pronounce. Showing that realm was a very good way of kicking off this game, saying, hey, this is a much larger scope. You visit an entire town, already you're seeing way more NPCs on screen than you did in the first one. There's so much more of a sense of variety of the locations in this game. Some realms are more wintry orientated and others are like jungly, like Vanaheim. Seeing inside Asgard for the first time as well. It's truly like an epic adventure that you go on, and the variety in in location really did help to spruce up the gameplay loop, because you wanted to explore these different areas. And it's also how the story just kept going in so many unexpected directions and introducing new characters. Like when Loki just teleports to Jotunheim and you're like, bloody hell, where is this going? That's when I started to have more faith in the game, thinking, okay, they've got some good ideas up the sleeves here, some new original ideas. And some of the gameplay mechanics they introduce almost out of nowhere. They also didn't expect Atreus or Loki to go to Asgard for that segment, but that was such a good way of expanding the story and reframing our perspectives a little bit, introducing us to new characters from the Thor household. I was also just amazed with what they did with Thor, because from all of the hype of this game, it was like, oh my god, Kratos and Thor are gonna have a big fight. Because a major hook of the God of War franchise is Kratos defeating these like huge, big, famous gods from mythology. And Thor is a very well-known and iconic god from mythology, also because of the Marvel films, unfortunately, but it is true. That's why most people knew who it was. I don't think this game would have been able to hype that aspect up as much as they did if Thor didn't exist in popular culture to the extent that it does, because of the Marvel films. Anyway, all that aside, Thor isn't just reduced to, oh yeah, another cool enemy for Kratos to beat up or whatever. He has this entire arc about him being this depressed alcoholic who needs to take initiative and redeem himself, and it's just great.
We love you. You know that. I just thought this was behind us.
I fucked up.
Switching it up and humanizing this guy who you initially think, oh, he's just going to be another big bad enemy. Doing something really introspective like that with him. Those kind of creative decisions I love. And it paid off.
You don't think, I think you kill. It's a simple fucking concept.
And also, I think it kind of goes without saying, but these God of War games, they're the best representation of Norse mythology that I've seen in a piece of media. At least within, like, relative recent history. Because in Marvel, it's just nothing. It's just completely bland. With Marvel, it could be any other throwaway mythology, like the way they treat that. But these games have made me so much more interested in all of that lore. And also, another thing to tie into this game just going in completely unexpected directions, a talking squirrel just shows up, like from a Disney movie. And you're like, okay, what the hell is next?
Capable of an astounding variety of acts of violence, I imagine.
What is happening?
And when you look back at all of the different moments in this story, you're like, holy shit, all of that occurred in just one game.
Oh, now I am definitely going to gut him.
There are a lot of memorable standout moments in this game. Also, a lot of great lines. The dialogue is maybe not all that subtle, but still really cool. Still perhaps a little bit video gamey, but still kind of badass.
You know my past. The ghost of Sparta thing. Yeah. Then you know what I'm capable of. Show me!
When playing as Atreus, it did take me a while to warm up to that, because playing as Kratos is just so cool, so much fun. But I did end up also enjoying the Atreus segments. Going back to the whole comparison between video games and films, one thing that films don't possess, like a very unique specific thing that only occur in video games, inter-gameplay dialogue. Like dialogue that occurs during gameplay, which provides like a completely unique storytelling experience. I know I'm being really pretentious here, but it's the only way I can like put it, visualize it. There's nothing quite like that in any other medium.
You fucking hope! You spit on my son's memories! I can't believe they lost to you!
Where you're fucking controlling this warrior and you're having this epic battle and some guy's saying something badass or kind of funny over there. The way the dialogue flows with the actions that you're performing. You can't replicate that in any other medium, I don't think.
Any day now! Oh, wait! You expected the stick to give you an advantage? Huh. Ah! What the?
These great little moments in video games where you're still controlling the character, but you have this dialogue as well. And it's like you are playing a movie, you are playing this amazing spectacle. And the fucking music, man, good grief. The music for this game is illustrious, whatever pretentious word you want to choose. There is not a dull piece of music in this game. No piece of music that doesn't like rile something up within you or get you excited for the story. And having that music present during gameplay, well, you can only imagine what kind of sensation that gives off. And you have all of these elements mixing together in these huge set pieces that you're playing, of dialogue from characters that you're extremely invested in, and then this triumphant music. It's just an effective, visceral way of experiencing a story. And the final mission of this game, where you besiege Asgard, has all of that in spades. This is like the ultimate culmination of everything you've been working towards, everything the story's been building towards, all of these characters, all of these quests, all of these objectives, all crescendoing into this one big explosion. And it's awesome.
Stay in control of it, brother!
I know!
Come on, Loki, try to keep up!
And shit like that doesn't come around that often, so I was just going to appreciate it here with this video. By that point in my playthrough, I was definitely more so playing for the story, which was fine. The last mission was very easy to get through gameplay wise, as were the two final bosses. At that point I was just playing, but more so paying attention to the dialogue and all the cinematics. Loved it for that.
When I will tell you a story.
So yeah, all of that shit that I just spoke about then, that's why I felt compelled to make this video. This fucking thing's Lord of the Rings like in terms of immersiveness. Good grief! Video games are the future of storytelling. I don't think people realise that. They are the next step. Fuck books. Fuck films. How dare you say that, Batcho. What about Stalker? What about Solaris? And Ingmar Bergman, for crying out loud. You're abandoning Ingmar Bergman. No, Ingmar Bergman didn't ever make God of War Ragnarok, no. Different metric. I'm not saying God of War is better than Ingmar Bergman film. Fuck it. Forget I said anything. But it's not a perfect story by any means. It's fairly conventional. But on a character level, it's great. Video games don't even have to be that complex when it comes to narrative. They can just expand on the simplest things. The Red Dead Redemption games are just, oh, cowboy man sad, and they're amazing. So when it comes to pieces of media about Norse mythology, you have this at the very top, you have the Marvel films at the bottom, and somewhere around here you have The Mask. Jim Carrey's The Mask, which does take place within a universe where Norse mythology is a thing. That is a thing, because that's Loki's mask in that. That fucking mask he has belongs to Loki.
Looks like 4th or 5th century Scandinavian. Possibly a representation of one of the Norse night gods. Maybe Loki.
Loki?
And it confirms it in the second one, Son of the Mask, which is shite, where Loki is played by the creepy dude from Eyes Wide Shut.
We're evenly matched opponents.
The cunt from Spy Kids, and also one of the Bond films. And now in this part of the video, I'm going to talk about gameplay, and you're going to think, but you've already talked about the gameplay, you idiot. That is very true. Think of this as the final little subtopic of this video, where I take the opportunity to talk about all of the other little things that I haven't mentioned yet. One thing in particular, traversal. What the fuck? No, I'm not that angry. The traversal of this game, which for those of you who don't know is just the walking about or going from A to B between combat stages. This involves squeezing through crevices and crawling under caves, pressing this button to move this rock out the way and then go under it, and like watching a mini cutscene of that happening. All of the stuff on the sleds I'm fine with, even the stuff on the rowboat, that's all okay. That didn't feel too monotonous, but fuck me, so many games have this. Rock climbing, stupid little things to prolong the gameplay. They feel very forced and artificial, because essentially at that point you're just holding the analog stick in a certain direction and you're not doing anything.
Fucking hope!
Now this game always does try and insert interesting dialogue in the more boring sections where there's nothing else to do other than listen, which I do appreciate. I was never bored in particular, because I loved hearing these little pieces of dialogue and getting these extra little character details, learning these new things that all added to the story.
In the service of a cruel god, I was tricked into destroying a village. not knowing my own wife and child were there until their blood stained my hands.
But the traversal on its own, even though they put the dialogue in there to soften that flaw, it's still a flaw. There are also a lot of puzzles in this game which I'm really not that arsed about. They don't really feel like they need to be in this. They are fairly creative though, but me personally, I don't really care for them. They just didn't really fit in with the rest of the gameplay loop that well. There is a hell of a lot of comedic relief in this game as compared to the 2018 one. A lot of fan service as well, I think. The script writing process has clearly been partially influenced by the success of the first game, but never in any ways that felt too distracting. Maybe some jokes felt a bit marvelly here and there, like okay, maybe we're going a little bit overboard with the comedic relief. However, all of the comedic relief that was at the expense of Kratos, for instance. They didn't jeopardize the integrity of Kratos' character just for a simple joke. Like, Kratos wouldn't do something out of character just for the sake of it being funny. The comedy would come from him doing something in character, like through the way he just goes about and just speaks to people, bouncing him off characters like Mimir and the Squirrel. And Mimir being like, oh, maybe you should write a poem one day, and him just going, no. There's a lot of him just going, no. And I appreciated that.
A musical instrument from your homeland, isn't it? Can you play?
Yes.
Will you?
No.
One other detail about this game that was present in the 2018 one is the way in which it has in-universe explanations for the actions of your character, as in the actions that you make the character do. Like, for instance, if the story demands you go in this way and then you just fuck off that way to get a chest, they'll be like, oh yeah, my dad likes to do that, he likes to gather resources. Or Kratos will say, oh yeah, it's always good to look in these chests and see if there's any good resources or some shit.
Kratos, where are you going?
He's just looking around. He does this sometimes.
Ah, curious. The shrine is this way, Kratos.
Yeah, he knows. We just like to be thorough.
I see. By all means, then.
There'll always be a clever, believable in-universe explanation for what you're doing, for as random or sporadic as it seems. I just thought I'd mention that because I don't often see that in most other video games. It's just a really cool detail. And there's plenty of examples of that surfacing on YouTube right now, of just clips of little bits of dialogue that occur when you do very specific things.
It is gone.
What is?
The passage to the Norns.
What would we need to go back there for, brother?
I thought Atreus would like the horse.
And that aspect also helps to motivate the player to do side quests, because there'll be a side quest that you don't have to do, but always have subplots which thematically tie into the story very well. So you have a lot of good reason to do all of the side quests. Most, if not all of the side quests will have like emotional stakes attached to them regarding one of the characters. Maybe it's like a former lover of one of the characters that you're helping out, or the spirit of someone that Kratos feels sorry for. It just always ties in with the rest of the game perfectly. It's beautifully done. Also, it's probably been said before, but Kratos, he's just a fucking badass. Like, what an awesome character that is. I only played God of War 2018 and this one, but still. The voice acting, superb. He doesn't speak that often, but every line of dialogue is extremely memorable. Well done. What a character. Atreus, he's alright. Odin, a pretty cool idiosyncratic villain who's like darkly sarcastic and comedic, this amoral douchebag. There's not really any uninteresting character. It's like sitting through a classic film series where everything about what is on screen is just gripping and immersive. And that's all I can really fucking say. Definitely been a ramble, but sometimes you just need to get the fucking point across. Sometimes you just need to express yourself. But I don't really mind how my videos aren't really that much about structure and more so about just expressing myself and my feelings towards art. I was very intimidated doing this review because it's a lot to talk about, but I hope I've covered all bases. I hope I've gotten across why I really like the game. It's not like one of the best things of all time. It's just really fucking good. It's just fucking cool. Like, that's all that matters, really. It was a piece of storytelling, and it was fucking cool, and I enjoyed it, and it worked. Might not be some magnum opus masterpiece or anything, but still, warts and all, it's worth experiencing. And that's all I'm really about. It's just, is it worthy of being experienced? I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, I'm begging you. Please. please, for the love of God, subscribe. It'd be pretty cool if I could make a career out of this, you know, just doing stupid reviews online. What are your thoughts on God of War, eh? We'll have to see. Sis, if you've gotten this far in the video, then please comment web action.
Give me some of that web action.
Get off the stage, you disgusting fat fuck. 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 Get off the stage, you disgusting fat fuck.